So, I was enjoying the first 2 days of the Jewish holiday of Sukkot. It's known in English as Tabernacles. So, observant Jews eat all their meals. Some even sleep in a sukkah, which is a booth made of part of branches and kind of living semi outside. And perhaps the most joyous Jewish festival. And I'd been having a very joyous Jewish festival, and I was giddy. I was telling stories. I was happy. I was getting along with everyone, and really enjoying integrating with my Jewish community and like living at peace with my fellow Jews, and just enjoying the holiday, enjoying festive meals and prayer and song and the rituals and the whole thing. It's a gestalt. It's the complete experience. It's not just the religious meaning. It's the tactile experience of being in a booth and waving a lulav and etrog. It's not just the prayers, it's the meals. It's not just the prayers and the meals, it's the days off work. It's the national meaning, it's the spiritual meaning, it's the religious meaning, it's just the social meaning. Okay, great time. And then I go home Tuesday afternoon. Just the hog, meaning the Jewish holiday, ends in about 5 hours, and about 2 hours after I get home, I am on my knees in front of the porcelain, throwing up my lunch, throwing up maybe even my breakfast, what we call in Australia the Technicolor yawn. And it's this, I don't know, I assume it's just like a stomach flu, which I seem to get about every 2 to 3 years, around this time of the year. And it's a complete, from 1 minute feeling okay, just a little like full in the stomach. Just suddenly feel like not digesting. And then thinking, oh, I just need to exercise and problem will go away. And then boom, like running for the toilet to upchuck, and then just feel absolutely miserable, feverish, but freezing cold, and pulling the covers over me, unstoppable shaking. And one of the worst bits of it is that, and now I'm going to have a very difficult time keeping down any water for the next 12 to 18, 24 hours. So because I've been vomiting so much, I'm dehydrated, and yet I know I'm not going to be able to keep down much water, so I'll just sip a little water and hope I can keep it down. Then a few hours later, it's just like the vomiting comes back. And then after about 12 to 18 hours, I can keep down water with no problem. Usually have no appetite for several days. Usually by second or third day, I'll have some soup, and like with a bit of salt in it, and maybe some, something with electrolytes. Now, usually about 48 hours in, I'll be on the mend. And it's just such a helpless feeling, just absolutely exhausted, devastated, shivering, sick. Like, I usually find myself crying out all sorts of things that I don't want to admit on this stream. And it's just a complete state of vulnerability. And when I'm in it, I mean, you just regress to childhood. It's like I started thinking, does anyone care about me? Does anyone love me? Like, am I gonna die? Am I gonna survive this? Like, am I just gonna die of dehydration? You know, what if it doesn't turn around like all the other times? What if it just gets worse and worse? And I can't do anything. I can't distract myself, even like listening to a book on my phone or watching TV or anything. I just don't want to take in anything, any information. So 24 hours after I got sick, I forced myself to do a stream with Kevin Michael Grace, and luckily I just left all the hard work to him, and he pulled me through it. And then the next morning, Thursday morning, the morning of the Kavanaugh and Christine Blasey Ford hearings, I was very much on the mend. I was able to watch all of the hearings on CNN, and today I'm improving. Dropped about 5 pounds, and I'm gonna probably stay in this weekend and get back to normal. But it's just that complete state of vulnerability that's just suddenly come out of nowhere. A minute you're riding on top of the world, you know, happy, giddy. This happened to me before on Sukkot, just like happy, giddy, everything's going great, and then boom, just brought to your knees. And isn't that just life? 1 minute you're up, 1 minute you're down. And other people to the greatest extent possible. You never know when you're going to have that vulnerable time. You never know who you're going to be surrounded with, right? If you're insufferable when you're up, what's going to happen when you're completely vulnerable? And also when you're completely vulnerable, I just know for myself, just the slightest words of kindness just meant so much when I was absolutely helpless before this stomach bug. You know, are you okay, Luke? It just meant everything. And normally someone, you know, an acquaintance saying to me, are you okay, Luke? It just wouldn't mean anything. It'd even be annoying. And like, how often do I feel like, does anybody love me? Only these times of like just complete illness, just that complete vulnerability, and yeah, it just brings me back to the importance of relationships and the importance of getting along. Because I mean, let's say you're on top of the world, you've got a scheduled speech, it's a paid speech, you're in Australia or England or France, and 1 minute you're giddy with anticipation for giving this speech, and the next minute you're on your knees, you know, with absolutely no control. And that's what life can do to you. Yeah, it's humbling. And when we're up, we got to remember what complete humiliation and vulnerability feels like. And it's just an opportunity to hit reset. Another thing that struck me is that is when I get comments, oh, you look really happy to be integrating with your community. Or I get that comment a lot, like, oh, Luke, you had a blast this weekend hanging out with the guys. Or I must have something written on my forehead that says the equivalent of God's lonely man. Okay, it's like lonely man right there. I remember one of the saddest or most cutting moments of my life is I just met this woman at a Jewish social event. It was a Jewish weekend, And I met her Friday afternoon, and then Friday evening we had the big communal Shabbat dinner. There were like 200, 300 plus people. And I remember feeling a little out of sorts and trying to find my way. Normally I do best in these situations when I have like, at least one person that I can kind of attach to. And this girl I just met, she remembered, she said, I just looked at you walking around the room and I just felt so sorry for you. So I remember another time I was hanging out at someone's home after the funeral of a mutual friend, and they were talking about the mutual. I'm 52 years of age, and I can still give out this vibe of the stray dog, the rescue dog, the orphan, or the God's lonely man, or whatever it is. And so people who don't know my backstory often, they just pick it up, and or they just sense how overjoyed I am at integrating and connecting, human connection. At 52, you'd think I'd be way past that by now, but not so fast, Buster. Like, loneliness is not a function of not enough people in your life or not enough of a social life. It's something, it's a pattern that gets written into your brain chemistry from your early years and may never get unwritten, or it may only be partly rewritable. But something about the loneliness in my first 5 years, I sensed that got written into my brain chemistry. So even when I feel like my life is thriving and I got friends, community, and everything's going well, there's still some of that writing in my brain chemistry that to the sensitive observer kind of leaps off the surface of my face and says, "This is God's lonely man." You notice how people most of us, we just have these habits that are, habitual reactions to stimuli that are very hard to rewire. And one of the major ones is, how much peace do you have connecting with other people? How much peace do you have at living in community, living in connection to other people? Or do you have some strong psychic drive to destroy that connection, so that you don't have to know the vulnerability of having good friendships and good relationships and a good place and community? Like the vulnerability is just too painful, and so you have to destroy it. That's like lonely people. That's what's going on. Okay, it has nothing to do with lack of a social life, lack of planning occasions to go out and be with other people. It's everything to do with the brain chemistry, the brain wiring, and lack of comfort with oneself. I mean, we just pick up immediately if someone's comfortable with themselves, and to the extent that someone's not comfortable with himself, we're not going to be comfortable with them. Someone who feels bad about himself as a negative self-image, we're not going to feel good about them. They're going to make us uncomfortable. We're not going to want to do business with someone who devalues himself or puts a low value on himself. On the one hand, I realized in many of my romantic relationships, I just kind of sensed the woman was easygoing, vulnerable, wouldn't take a lot of effort, because I never wanted to put a lot of effort into my romanticizing, with my romancing. So I would just pick up, kind of these vulnerable, flexible, easygoing women who wouldn't take a lot of romantic effort. I just didn't want to put in the work. So yeah, I guess I would just immediately sense that vulnerability. Then you sense people, and economically they can just immediately tell if someone's vulnerable, and they'll take advantage of that. Wow. And then I have another open question. Like, why do I hate Jeff Flake so much? He's the Arizona Republican U.S. Senator who moved today to delay the Senate vote on confirming Brett Kavanaugh to the United States Supreme Court, delay it for up to a week so the FBI can do a report. And he just sprung this in the middle of the U.S. Senate Justice Committee. Just before they were scheduled to vote, he went out with I think Chris Coons, the Democratic senator, is Jeff Flake's good buddy, and suddenly the whole thing was thrown into confusion. And yeah, isn't that another example how often people live up to their name? Jeff Flake. He is flaky. Luke Ford. Okay, that's my name. I'm a Luke Ford type character, what you'd expect from someone named Luke Ford. And I think it's true that we're more likely to date and have relationships with people whose names are similar to us. So people like Lisa or Lori, whose names start with an L or 4 letters like mine, are just more likely to connect with. And so instead of marshalling up all the rational arguments for why I hate Jeff Flake, I was kind of curious, why do I have such a strong emotional reaction against that guy and against John McCain? I guess because when you feel like the traitors in your own party, in your own group, I guess it's probably much more human and natural to hate the guy. You expect someone from the opposition to do what they can to stop you, but when it's a member of your own party who's doing all that they can to stop you, then that's a natural human instinct, right? He just seems so pretentious. I think here it is. He reminds me a lot of the people I knew growing up who abused religious authority. So Jeff Flake's a committed Mormon, and he's just had this pained look on his face for the past 2 days. And he talks about process a lot and the integrity of the Senate and healing the divisions in the American Republic and bringing people together and all this high-minded moral talk. And I feel like it's just a cloak for perfidy, for slamming a dagger into your own side. So I have a really strong reaction to people who abuse religious authority due to some of my early childhood experiences. So I think Jeff Flake's position of great piety, that I'm very familiar with that look he had of great pain, and people who abuse religion, moral authority, put on a moral pose